The bitterness of a dark roast, a trace of caramel. Then that first sip, hot and full-bodied, strong enough to wake you up while the rest of the house is still quiet. An estimated 40 million American households start their morning with that feeling. From a pod smaller than your palm, drop it in, press a button. Less than 60 seconds. The man who helped invent that pod has said it himself. Sometimes, he regrets ever creating it. He sold his stake for $50,000. Today, the company's worth an estimated $46 billion. And as billions of used pods pile up in landfills, the convenience he created has become a problem that won't decompose for centuries. This is how coffee pods are actually made, and the story behind them is far more complicated than a button on a kitchen counter. Mid-1980s, John Sylvan worked at Analog Devices in Massachusetts. He had one unofficial job nobody envied, collecting money from co-workers for the communal coffee pot. One pot, everyone chips in. Nobody wanted to pay. Sylvan has described it like running a shakedown. It was, in his words, like the mafia. That annoyance sparked an idea. One person, one cup, brewed on demand. He quit, called Peter Dragone, his college roommate from Colby, and together they founded Keurig Inc. Keurig is Dutch for excellence. The next 7 years were anything from 1992 to 1997. Sylvan burned through investor money with nothing to ship. In 1997, exhausted in body and mind, he walked away and sold his shares for $50,000. 1 year later, Keurig shipped its first machine. So who bought those first machines? Not families. Keurig didn't go after kitchens at all. They went after offices, and they didn't sell machines. They gave them away. Free placement in break rooms, reception desks, employee lounges, a sleek machine on the counter, no charge. But once that machine sat there, you had one option: buy Keurig's pods. The machine wasn't the product. The machine was the door. The pod was what you'd pay for, every cup, every week, for years. Margins on machines were razor thin. All the profit lived inside the pod. And once offices were locked in, Keurig turned to the kitchen, where those 40 million families were waiting. Here's the thing nobody tells you. It starts with green beans, raw and unroasted, from Colombia, Brazil, Vietnam. Bite into one, and you'd taste grass and acid. Everything you call coffee flavor doesn't exist yet. Those beans hit a roaster at 200 to 230 degrees Celsius. Over 12 to 15 minutes, the Maillard reaction generates what researchers estimate at more than 800 aroma compounds. This is the peak. The moment a bean is the most flavorful it'll ever be. Then comes grinding, and here's where most of what you think you're tasting vanishes. Grinding explodes the surface area, exposing it to oxygen. Aroma compounds evaporate or oxidize irreversibly. Some studies estimate up to 60% of flavor gone within 15 minutes. The coffee in your K-cup was ground weeks before it reached you. That smell when you peel a pod open, that's what survived. But here's the thing. The cup itself is injection-molded polypropylene, plastic number 5. Remember that number. A paper filter gets ultrasonically welded inside. Too loose and grounds leak, too tight and water can't extract. The margin's tiny. Each cup gets exactly 9 to 12 grams of coffee. You pay about 56 cents for that. The same amount from a can of ground coffee costs about 7 cents, 8 times more. After dosing, nitrogen at over 99.5% purity flushes out all oxygen. But nitrogen doesn't restore what grinding took. It keeps things from getting worse. An aluminum lid seals the cup airtight. So why go to all that trouble sealing it? Because the pod only works if it stays sealed until the exact second the machine breaks it open. When you drop the pod in, 2 needles puncture simultaneously. One from above through foil, one from below through plastic. Water at 92 degrees rushes through, 10 to 15 seconds of near-boiling water flowing through polypropylene. Preliminary 2025 research suggests this may release microplastics into your coffee, over 20 particles per day if you drink 2 cups. Those numbers are still being verified. Scales check every pod. Tolerance of plus or minus 0.4 grams. Cameras inspect labels. Defects get pulled. By some industry estimates, around 39,000 pods leave production lines every minute. All that machinery, roasting, grinding, nitrogen flushing, ultrasonic welding, dual needles, foil sealing exists to do one thing: give you coffee you don't have to think about. The next question isn't what goes into the pod. It's who decides which pod you're allowed to use. In 2012, Keurig's patent expired. Competitors flooded in. Keurig's response was a scanner chip in the next-generation machine. No Keurig code on your pod, the machine wouldn't brew. If you've ever bought a cheaper ink cartridge and seen cartridge not recognized flash on screen, you know this feeling exactly. Forced to buy the branded consumable at a higher price for a machine you already own. Only this time it wasn't ink, it was coffee. Rogers Family Company, a small roaster, fought back with a plastic clip worth pennies. Stick it on any pod. Machine fooled. 8 lawsuits followed. According to reports at the time, sales dropped around 23%. Keurig killed the DRM. A clip worth cents cracked a $46 billion lock. You've seen the word recyclable on every K-Cup box. Most buyers feel a bit better tossing the pod in the bin. But 2 of the largest recycling companies in America had already told Keurig they didn't intend to accept the pods. Too small, contaminated with grounds. Sorting machines can't handle them. In September 2024, the SEC found that Keurig's own annual reports for 2019 and 2020 stated its pods could be effectively recycled without disclosing that negative feedback. Keurig agreed to pay $1.5 million and consented to a cease and desist order, without admitting or denying the findings. One SEC commissioner publicly dissented, arguing the company's statement was still accurate, even if a recycler chose not to accept the pods. Keurig's position is that the pods are made from polypropylene, which many curbside programs do accept, and that consumers should check their local program. $1.5 million, about 0.003% of annual revenue. Meanwhile, by some estimates, roughly 29,000 pods hit landfills every minute. Polypropylene is estimated to take 300 to 500 years to break down. So let's go back to that kitchen counter. Flip the pod over. Look at the bottom. Number 5 inside a triangle. Polypropylene. Now call your nearest recycling center and ask whether they accept number 5 plastic smaller than a palm. Whatever answer you get, that's the real one, and it's the one the box never gave you. Here's what you didn't know this morning. A bean hits peak flavor and then loses it by the minute, and the pod on your counter was ground weeks ago. Every cup you've made was a race that was already lost before the box left the factory. In 2025, Keurig announced the K-Round, a pod made from seaweed and cellulose, no plastic cup. 30 years later, they're building the thing without the plastic that made them. The next time you press that button, the bitterness, the smoke, the caramel will still be there. Only now you know more about what's in the cup and about the man who made it possible. That's the process. We reveal how things actually work, one story at a time. If there's something you'd like us to explore next, let us know. Until then, trust the process.